So, how do businesses get the cash they need to start, to grow, and to, completely take over their market? Well, it really comes down to a huge choice between two very powerful forces, debt and equity. And believe me, this one decision, it shapes literally everything that comes next. So, let's break it down.
All right, let's just kick things off with a simple question that gets right to the heart of all this. Would you rather own 100% of a small, really profitable cake shop or just 10% of a massive bakery empire that's pumping out thousands of cakes a day? Your answer to that question reveals pretty much your entire philosophy on growth, on risk, and most importantly, on control. And that right there, that's what we call the founder's dilemma. It's this constant, tricky balancing act between fueling explosive growth on one side and keeping control of your own company on the other. The path you pick can mean the difference between becoming ridiculously wealthy or, and this really happens, ending up as just another employee at the very company you started.
And what's fascinating is how this whole strategy just completely flips as a company gets bigger. You see, early-stage startups, the ones with little more than a dream and a PowerPoint deck, they almost always use equity, selling off pieces of the company. But the giants, the big dogs on the S&P 500, they overwhelmingly use debt. So, why the huge switch? Let's find out.
First up, let's talk about equity. This is the lifeblood of the startup world. It's the path for those huge ideas that need a ton of money, and they need it fast. The basic idea here is super simple. You trade a slice of your ownership for cold, hard cash. Investors are basically making a bet, a big bet, that their little piece of your company is going to be worth an absolute fortune one day. It's the whole premise behind a show like Shark Tank, right?
And this whole journey, it usually follows a pretty well-worn path. It kicks off with seed funding for your little artisanal coffee shop idea. Then comes Series A, where you prove that, hey, people will actually pay for your coffee. Series B is all about taking that one successful shop and turning it into a national chain. And Series C, that's when you're going after Starbucks. And it's all leading up to that final step, the IPO.
But, and this is a huge but, here's the catch. As all that money is pouring in, your personal piece of the pie gets smaller and smaller. Every single funding round means selling off another chunk of ownership, and with it, a piece of your control. Your seat at the head of the table gets a little less comfortable every single time.
And if you think that just sounds like some abstract, far-off risk, well, just ask Steve Jobs. He co-founded Apple in a garage, but as the company took on more and more investors, his control just slipped away. By 1985, the board that he helped create had enough power to fire him from his own company. And they did. That right there is the ultimate risk of equity.
And all of this slow loss of control, it all leads to the final, ultimate step on the equity journey, the initial public offering, or IPO. This is when a company finally lists on a stock exchange. You can raise billions of dollars, sure, but you're also handing over ownership to the entire public market, and that's when the pressure gets really intense.
And believe me, that pressure is absolutely immense. You're now reporting to thousands, maybe millions of shareholders every 3 months. You miss one target, and the market can be absolutely brutal. I mean, look at what happened to Meta back in 2022. They lost $230 billion in value in one day. That is the kind of insane volatility you're signing up for.
Okay, so if taking equity ultimately means you could lose control, what's the alternative? Well, that brings us to debt. This is the tool that the world's biggest, most established players use to expand their empires without giving up the throne.
The beauty of debt, really, is how straightforward it is. It's a temporary tool. You borrow capital, you use it to grow, you pay it back with interest, and, this is the crucial part, you keep 100% ownership of your company. It's all about leverage, not about sacrificing control.
So you might be thinking, wait a minute, why on earth would a company like Apple, sitting on a literal mountain of cash, decide to borrow money?
Well, because for these corporate giants, debt is often way cheaper than using their own cash. The interest they pay is tax deductible, which makes the actual cost of borrowing that money incredibly low. It lets them fund new projects while keeping their cash pile safe and, of course, keeping 100% of their ownership. Now, the most common form of debt is the classic business loan. You get a big lump sum of cash and you get a very strict repayment schedule. This is perfect for a stable business that has predictable income, but you gotta remember the clock starts ticking the second you get that money. The bank wants its payment back on time, every time. No excuses. A much more flexible option is a line of credit. You can think of this thing like a financial safety net for your business. A bank pre-approves you for a certain amount of cash, and you only pay interest on the money you actually draw down and use. It's absolutely essential for managing cash flow. You know, like paying for all your holiday inventory months before the big sales rush actually hits. And then for the real heavy hitters, we're talking the Apples and the Googles of the world, there are corporate bonds. This is basically when a massive company becomes its own bank. They create their own loan, it's just a promise to repay with interest, and then they sell that promise to investors all over the world. It's kind of like an IPO, but instead of selling off ownership, you're selling debt.
Okay, but what if you're listening to all this and thinking, nope, I don't want investors breathing down my neck, and I definitely don't want to be beholden to a bank either? Well, good news. There is a third path, a path of pure self-reliance. It's called bootstrapping. Bootstrapping is all about building a company with nothing but your own personal savings and the revenue you make from your very first customers. That's it. No investors, no board meetings, no loan officers to answer to. Every single decision and every single dollar of profit is yours and yours alone.
And you have to understand, the whole mindset here is just a total 180 from the startup world. It is not about growth at all costs. It's about being profitable from day one. You keep your costs ruthlessly low, you grow organically, and you're funded by your own success. Sure, it might be a slower journey, but you keep absolute ownership. And hey, if things don't work out, you can just walk away clean. You own no one.
All right, so let's pull all of this together. We've got 3 totally different ways to play the game: equity, debt, and bootstrapping. Each one comes with some really fundamental trade-offs. Let's put them side by side so the choice becomes crystal clear.
And this table really just lays out the core dilemma. The path to hypergrowth through equity, well, it's going to cost you ownership and control. The path of leverage through debt lets you keep that control, but it adds that relentless pressure of having to make those payments. And the path of bootstrapping, it gives you absolute control, but it often means slower, more deliberate growth.
So, after all that, which one is the best? The honest truth is there is no single right answer. The perfect strategy depends completely on what you want to build, what you're willing to risk, and what you're willing to give up to get there. And that brings us right back to our very first question, but let's frame it a little more directly. Are you building for maximum growth or for maximum control? Because your answer to that question defines your strategy, your journey, and ultimately your endgame.